What up, boys? Alright, so let me tell you what's up today. Basically, I'm just gonna level with you here. Every single person watching this video right now needs to look me directly in the eyes and tell me that they're excited for Devil May Cry 5. You all better be hype. That's just what's up today. That's what we're doing. Everyone who isn't full send turning up for Devil May Cry 5 hype, all of them just need to reevaluate the entire lives they've been living up to this point. That includes starving children in third world countries. Actually, it includes dead people. Long story short, in honor of March 8th hype, we're just gonna take a quick look at Devil May Cry's resident GOAT, Nero. More specifically, Nero and his girlfriend, Kyrie. Alright, I mean, I'm kidding. He's not really the Devil May Cry GOAT, but he kinda is, though. Anyway, it's a pretty fascinating topic, in my opinion, and mostly that's because it's such a great example of how easy it can really be for writers and creative teams, game devs, to just build a successful waifu, you know, to put in any story, literally anyone. It's so easy to sail a successful ship in pretty much any series these days. It takes pretty much no effort at all whatsoever. Why would we worry about adding a romance or building a waifu in any given series in the first place? Well, basically because it's so easy, it's all upside. In this particular case, especially with Nero and Kyrie, we meet them both in the first cutscene here, right at the start of Devil May Cry 4. She's in church singing, you know, this beautiful solo, and he's trying to make it to church on time to hear her. All right, well, yeah, just right off the bat, that's a pretty decent, you know, foundation, pretty solid introduction to open up on. We can immediately see how much she cares about him just from the way she's constantly looking over during her performance at the empty seat he's supposed to be in. And of course, equally, we can tell how much he cares about her by how hard he's fighting all these trash demons to get through them to make it on time to hear her solo. Yeah, it's clean. I don't know what you want me to say. Kyrie ends her song. She looks over and she sees that Nero made it. She's delighted, you know, great, awesome. Notice how quickly we're already starting to understand their relationship dynamic, though. You know, we've got basically no dialogue at all between them, but just these, you know, tiny little expressions here, these meaningful glances back and forth, the shy smiles she's constantly giving off here. They're so insanely efficient at establishing the budding romance in the minds of the audience that we really didn't even need any dialogue, which is why it's so funny that most fans of Devil May Cry 4 who dislike this ship and don't like Kyrie, their main complaint is usually that she like doesn't have that much dialogue. So it's actually pretty funny how they made it work in such a way that their relationship wouldn't require her to say too much, at least not until the end. Anyway, so he makes it for the solo, and the church goes on. You know, she goes over to his seat. He kind of plays it cool, you know, puts the headphones in, but gives her this gold necklace as a gift, which this gold necklace will proceed to, like, come back a trillion billion times over the course of the rest of the story. We can also see, almost immediately after this, when Dante comes busting in and just shooting up the place like a fucking savage of some kind, how badly Nero wants to protect her as well. It's not just this like care that he has feelings for her, but it's like a very visceral, you know, he has to protect her above all. We can tell that just from his body language. So what's gonna happen? He's got to protect Kyrie at all costs. Dante comes busting in, shooting up the place. Immediately, of course, he tries to just run away with her. It's clear to Nero immediately that, all right, this guy, don't know him, but this dude is not to be messed with. So he immediately just tries to run, even though he's a legendary badass, basically in his own accord, already at this point in the story before we even begin playing as him. But still, he just tries to get her out of there because her safety is still so much more important that he wouldn't even want to take the risk of trying to fight this guy. So it's not a risk worth taking in his mind. Of course, Kyrie then spots that her brother is in danger, is in the line of Dante's fire, basically, and Kyrie can't run away, leaving her brother behind. So, she calls out to him and tries to run to go grab her brother, which is, obviously suicidal. But at this moment, instantly, what's going to happen? We all know it. Nero and Dante are going to have a legendary fight. An incredible, badass fight, which will go down in cutscene cinematic history because it's so well directed. But that's basically scene one. Then we just have this long, protracted cutscene battle between Dante and Nero. The important bits, the stuff about Kyrie and Nero, that's basically already done for here. So that was literally our entire setup for their relationship, which will then proceed to drive the plot of the rest of the game. And at this point, you might be kind of surprised to hear that, right? Like, how can that be enough to drive the outcomes of the plot of the entire game, with just this one scene with barely any dialogue to set up this romance? And it's enough. I mean, it literally it works. It's enough. There are already, just based on this one scene, there are already 1 million Devil May Cry fans writing Nero and Kyrie fanfiction, like as we speak. There are already 1 million Devil May Cry fans making Nero and Kyrie AMVs on YouTube. Just that's all it takes. And that's pretty much what I'm trying to get at with this entire video. That's all it takes to make a waifu, to make a ship that fans will get invested in, will buy into. Of course, I mean, there are a couple, you do need to hit a couple boxes. You do need to check a couple boxes here. You can't just have any two characters and try to set them up with this kind of formula, in one scene and hope that carries an entire game. It won't work. So, of course, Capcom pulled a couple creative tricks here, which I'm sure they're going to be familiar to you, even if you're not consciously aware of the fact that you are familiar with these narrative tricks and these character design tricks. I mean, they're both really attractive. They're just both really good-looking people. They're both really cool people. Nero is obviously a huge badass, for one. He's sexy, right? He's got this rad demon arm, and he's kind of a badass, but with a really likable personality. And he's the son of a character that is probably one of the most beloved characters in all of fiction, Virgil. Spoilers, I guess, but not really. Kyrie, on the other hand, I mean, just look at her. It's pretty obvious, right? I mean, she's not hard to look at. I mean, this is going by waifu standards. She's right at home, on the waifu scale. That's where I'm going with this, you guys. I mean, sometimes that's really all it takes. Sometimes you just gotta give your female love interest character an 80 million inch chest and, hips for days. And yeah, I mean, it's true what a lot of the haters say, a lot of the people who dislike this ship, they'll say that, yeah, all Kyrie does, forever, for the entire story, for all of her life, basically, is just be in love with Nero and then run back like triple S rank damsel business over and over again. That's her entire thing. And that's true. To be fair, that is actually, her entire thing is just being in love with Nero. But it doesn't matter. Just not for this. It just works for this because people care about Nero and Kyrie. I mean, the evidence is there. It worked. It was successful. People want to see them together. People ship them. And that is what really matters at the end of the day. With so little effort, Capcom introduced this romance into the game, which then made it a massively better experience for an entire demographic of people. People who are really into shipping, relationships, people who think romance is the best thing in fiction, right? And they hook up, the whole romance setup gets paid off, naturally. And we get a pretty classic, heartwarming end. You know what, let me actually turn the lights on. Just hang on one sec. All right, yeah, sorry about that. It's getting a little dark in here. So, yeah, we get a pretty heartwarming, classic, romantic end. Just pretty much everything you would expect. They hold hands, they kiss, or depending on how many times you play through the game. They look towards the future together, that really classic, cliche, romantic payoff. She leans her head on him. They look out into the sunset. Birds, peacefully flying off over the ruined town that he just saved, along with Dante, of course. And just in case you're curious, by the way, about how Nero and Kyrie are doing as of now, in Devil May Cry 5 going into the new game, well, I'm delighted to inform you, in fact, that Nero literally got an entire robotic arm just to use as a vibrator on her. That happened. That's literally Devil May Cry canon. Cheers, boys.
Suicide,